Welcome, Algebra 1 students, to the homework help video, page 148, number 17 through 39 odd. Let's jump right into these. Here we go. Notice for each problem, I have the steps down below, so we'll go back to those for every problem. Step 1, simplify both sides as far as possible. Over here, we have two unlike terms. We cannot simplify that side, and over here, we cannot simplify that side. So, on to step 2. Eliminate all fractions. There are no fractions. On to step 3. Isolate the variable. So, we want to get x by itself. Remember, the last thing that you always get rid of is the number that's right beside the variable. Always save that. It's called a coefficient. Always save the coefficient for last. Okay? So here we go. Bring the negative 1 over, make it a positive 1, and now we have 3x equals 9. Now, the 3 is multiplying to the x. Opposite of multiply is divide. So we divide both sides by 3. X equals 3. If you put 3 in up here, 3 times 3 is 9. Minus 1 is 8. Number 19. Step 1. Simplify both sides of the equation. X term here, constant term here. We cannot simplify. Over here we have a 20. We cannot simplify. Step 2. Eliminate fractions. Now students, I do have a fraction, okay? X over 2. So, what I've taught you guys to do is to multiply every term by whatever the denominator is. My denominator is 2, so we're going to multiply the entire equation by 2. Alright? So, 2 over 1 times x over 2. Your 2's would cancel, leaving you with x over 1, which is x. 2 times 13 is 26, and 2 times 20 is 40. Lastly, isolate the variable. So bring the 26 over, make it a negative 26, and x equals 14. Now let's check it. When the x is right here, I'm going to put 14. 14 over 2 is 7. 7 plus 13 is 20. Moving on. Number 21. Step 1. Simplify both sides of the equation. Over here on the left side, I just have a 6. Nothing I can do. Over here on the right side, I have unlike terms, a constant term and an x term, so nothing I can do. Step 2. Eliminate fractions. There are no fractions. Step 3. Isolate the variable. Now, to get x by itself, there are two numbers I want to get rid of. Remember, always save this number here beside the x for last. So, bring the positive 14 over, make it a negative 14, and we're left with negative 8 equals negative 2x. Positive 6, negative 14, negative 8. Next, the negative 2 is multiplying times the x, so we divide both sides by negative 2. These cancel. A negative over a negative is positive, and 8 divided by 2 is 4. Let's check our answer real quick here. When the x is, I will substitute 4. Negative 2 times 4 is negative 8. 14 minus 8 is 6. It checks. Alright? Moving on to number 23. Step 1. Simplify both sides of the equation. Unlike terms over here, we cannot simplify. One number over here, we cannot simplify. Step 2. Eliminate fractions. Now remember, there is a fraction, so remember, we look at the denominator, and the denominator is a 4. So I'm going to multiply the entire equation by 4. Okay? Now, we do see a negative sign here, so some of you might think we use a negative 4. I would not do that if I were you. It just makes more of a mess because you're multiplying a negative number through. It would work, but it's a lot more work. Okay? Just to use a positive number. 4 times 3 is 12. A positive times a negative is negative. 4 over 1 times 3 over 4. Your 4's cancel, leaving you with 3 over 1, which is 3. So, 3x. And then lastly, positive 4 times negative 6, negative 24. Fractions are gone. Step 3, isolate the variable. So, here's my variable. Save the 3 for last. Bring the 12 over. It's a positive 12. When you bring it over, it becomes a negative 12. So negative 3x equals negative 36 because negatives are like money that you owe. You owe 24, you owe 12, now you owe 36. Lastly, let's get rid of the negative 3. It's multiplying, so we're going to divide the opposite of multiply. We're going to divide both sides by a negative 3. These cancel. A negative over a negative is positive. 36 over 3 is 12. Let's check our answer. If you put a 12 right here, 3 fourths times 12 is 9, negative 9, and 3 negative 9 does equal negative 6. So it does check. Okay? Moving on to number 25. Okay, we're finally going to be able to use step 1. I'm going to simplify both sides of the equation. When I look at the right side, there is just a positive 10. Over here, though, I have an x term and an x term. So bring down your x, positive 8, negative 3, positive 5. There, that's done. There are no fractions. Isolate the variable, divide both sides by 5, and x equals 2. So where the x is, I will put a 2 and a 2, and let's see if our answer checks. This is 16 minus 6, and we know that 16 minus 6 does equal 10. Moving on to number 27. Okay, step 1, simplify both sides of the equation. Now obviously students, I cannot simplify a 1. There's nothing I can do to the right side. However, to the left side, I have an x term and an x term. They're like terms. Combine those. Bring down your constant term. There's no term to combine that with. I have an x term and an x term. So write your x once. There's a 1 here, even though you can't see it. Positive 1, positive 5, positive 6. There we go. Step 1 is done. I cannot simplify this any further. I have a constant term and an x term. They're unlike terms. Step 2, eliminate fractions. There are no fractions. Step 3, isolate the variable. Remember, save the number with the x or the letter of the variable for last. Bring your negative 5 over. Make it a positive 5. So we now have 6x equals 6. The 6 is multiplying the x, so the opposite of multiply is divide. We'll divide both sides by 6. 6 over 6, or 6 divided by 6 is 1, and we're finished. Now, let's check our answer. Let's put a 1 here for x. Let's put a 1 here for x. 1 is 1. 5 times 1 is 5. Minus 5. 1 plus 5 is 6. 6 minus 5 is 1. 1 equals 1. The answer checks. On to number 29. Okay, students, here we go. Step 1, simplify both sides. Well, obviously, 18, there's nothing I can do. But over here, I have 3 being multiplied times the group. So we know I can distribute the 3 through the parentheses. Positive times a positive is positive. 3 times x is 3x. A positive times a negative is negative. 3 times 2 is 6. Now, students, we have done this as far as possible. I have 2 unlike terms here. I cannot combine them, so I'm finished. There is no more simplifying than I can do. Number 2, there are no fractions. Step 3, isolate the variable. So, save this for last. Bring the 6 over, make it a positive 6. I'm left with 3x equals 24. Now, divide both sides by 3. Your 3's cancel. 24 over 3 is 8. Okay? Now, you don't have to check your answer, but let's check it just to make sure that we're right. Where the x is, I'm going to put an 8. So I have 3 times 6, making us 8 minus 2 is 6. 18 equals 18. Check. Alright? Okay. Number 31. Step now, my students. Some students right away want to eliminate fractions, and that's wrong. First, simplify. So, I cannot simplify the right side, but the left side, I have a 9 halves I can multiply through. So, 9 halves times x, positive times a positive is positive. Positive times a positive is positive. 9 halves times 3, let's see. 9 halves times 3 over 1, that's 27 over 2. There we go. Step 1 is done. I cannot simplify any further. X term here, constant term here. They are unlike. Okay, so on to step 2, eliminate fractions. Now, notice my denominators are the same, a 2 and a 2. So I multiply the entire equation by 2. Now, if I would have had a 2 and a 3, then I would multiply the entire equation by 6. Because even though I'm not trying to find a common denominator for 2 and 3 is 6. Okay? But in this case, we have matching denominators. They're both 2's. So we're going to multiply the entire equation by 2 over 1. 2 over 1 times 9 over 2. Your 2's will cancel. 1 times 9 is 9. 9 over 1 is 9. So 9x plus, your 2's cancel. 1 times 27 is 27. 27 over 1 is 27. And then 27 2 times 27 is 54. Step 3, isolate the variable. Bring your positive 27 over, make it a negative 27, and you're left with 9x equals 27. Last step, now divide by 9, and x would equal 3. Okay? Let's check our work. Put a 3 in for x. 3 plus 3 is 6. So 9 halves times 6 equals 27. And that's correct. Trust me, if you take 9 over 2 times 6 over 1, you will get 27. Okay? Alright, number 33. Step 1, simplify both sides as far as possible. Now obviously, 17 cannot be simplified. However, this right side has a bunch of simplifying. 2 times 3x, 6x. 2 times 1, positive 2. Please do not multiply the 2 times the x, the negative x. It is not inside the parentheses, okay? Bring down your negative x. Okay, we're not finished. We have an x term and an x term. Let's combine those, okay? So, bring down your x, positive 6, negative 1, that's a positive 5. Bring down your positive 2. I cannot simplify this any further. Step 2, eliminate fractions. There are none. Step 3, isolate the variable. Save your 5 for last. Bring your 2 over. Make it a negative 2. 15 equals 5x. The 5 is multiplying times the x. So we're going to do the opposite. We're going to divide both sides by 5. 3 equals x. Let's check our answer real quick here. 3 times 3 is 9, plus 1 is 10. So 2 parentheses 10 minus x, or minus 3. There it is. 20 minus 3, 17. Checks. Alright, number 35. Step 1. Simplify both sides. There's nothing I can do at all to this side or to this side. Okay? So, on to step 2. We're going to eliminate fractions. Okay? Now we have a fraction that has a denominator of 4. Okay? So we're going to multiply right here. So we're going to multiply the entire fraction, the entire equation by 4. 4 times negative 10, negative 40. 4 times 4, 16. Now, 4 over 1, your 4's cancel, leaving you with 7x over 1, or just 7x. Step 2 is done. Step 3, isolate the variable. We're going to bring the positive 16 over, make it a negative 16. That's negative 56. You owe 40. You owe 16. Now you owe 56. Bring down your negative 7. The negative 7 is multiplying times the x. The opposite of multiply is divide. Negative divided by a negative is positive. And 8 is our answer. Now, let's check it. Here's an x. I'm going to put an 8. 7 times 8 is 56. 56 divided by 4 is 14. So I have 4 minus 14, or positive 4, negative 14, which is negative 10. Okay? Alright, number 37. Step 1, simplify both sides. Let's simplify the left side. Okay? Take this negative sign, multiply it through. Okay? Negative times a positive is negative. Negative times a negative is positive. We're still not done. M term, positive 5, negative 4, positive 1. Bring down your positive 1. Please do not try to combine those. They're unlike terms. And if you don't want to put this 1 there, you don't have to. You can if you want to. It's up to you. Okay, step 1 is done. Step 2, eliminate all fractions. There are no fractions. Step 3, isolate the variable. So, save this number for last. Bring the 1 over. Make it a negative 1. 1m equals negative 13. Now, divide by 1, of course. When you divide by 1, nothing changes. Negative 13 divided by 1 is negative 13. There's your answer. Now, let's check it. Put a negative 13 here. 5 times negative 13, negative 65. Put a negative 13 right here, and you get negative 52, negative 1. That's negative 53. So I brought down my negative sign, and this in parentheses is negative 53. Negative, negative makes the 53 positive. Combine those, you get a negative 12, which equals negative 12. Okay? Alright, last problem, number 39. Step 1, simplify. Nothing I can do over here. On the right side, on the left side, take your 2 and multiply it through. 2 times 3, positive 6x. 2 times 5, positive 10. Let's continue to simplify. X term and X term. Positive 22, positive 6, positive 28. Bring down your positive 10. Okay, no more simplifying. Unlike terms, 66, we're done. Step 2, eliminate fractions. There are none. Step 3, isolate the variable. Save this number for last. Bring your 10 over. Make it a negative 10. 28x equals 56. Okay? Divide both sides by 28. X equals 2. 56 divided by 28 is 2. Now, let's check the answer. Okay? Here's an x, put a 2. Here's an x, put a 2. 22 times 2, 44. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 5 is 11. 2 times 11 is 22. Combine those, and look at that. You get 66 equals 66. Okay? Some students, not too difficult. Follow the steps I've given you and you'll be fine. I hope this help video has been a help to you. If you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to contact me.